So today, let's take a look at the Vanguard class, which is my absolute favorite in Space Marine 2. Well, it's the only class I've played so far, but let's not talk about that. The Vanguard class is the most S-tier, best class in Space Marine 2. Well, alright, the heavy class does go pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. So I've been having a lot of fun on the Vanguard class in Space Marine 2, and I figured out some awesome tech as well as perk builds that take this class to the next level for me. I cover tons of stuff like animation canceling, the best melee combos with the Chainsword and the knife, parrying, and the preferred weapon, the Melta, as well as just the overall playstyle, and I'll be giving perk loadouts and recommendations for everything. I will also even include a quick run through of the A+ trials at the end of this video, so skip through the timestamps if that's what you're interested in doing. But you definitely want to listen to some of the explanations because you have great survivability due to the capstone perk that everybody is calling bad. And more importantly, there's tons of just different little tips and tricks to go through with animation canceling on your Melta, the melee combos, and just all that stuff tied together makes the combat so fluid, and it makes this class very, very strong, survivable, just everything all put together. So if you'd like to come catch a live stream on this YouTube channel, I don't stream on Twitch because I think it is a cringe platform. Be sure to turn on my notifications down below. I usually stream afternoons and evenings. I can give you guys live tips and tricks or answer any questions or even just power level you through the Hive Tyrant mission. So the basic playstyle of Vanguard is to kill elite enemies by grappling into them, blasting off a Melta shot, and a couple melee combos to finish them off. The Melta is obviously the best weapon for this class as the assault rifles are mid, but the Melta itself is a bit low on ammo, and you want to either use your Chainsword or your knife more so as your primary. And just mix Melta shots in as you see fit because it staggers enemies when you hit them with it, and it's also just great for mobbing. So when it comes to the Melta, I choose the ranged variant over the extra ammo one because during the long sections without an ammo box, I mainly focus on meleeing and parrying, and I just save my shots for giant groups of hordes or when I need to stagger. And the +3 range will kill a lot more enemies than you think. It reaches very, very far, and it has insane piercing. Just as a quick example, during the mission where you have to kill enemies at the bottom of a wall, where there's multiple missions like this, it can reach the bottom of these walls, and it can even reach across to the other pillar of these walls. And I've used the other Melta, and it doesn't go that far. And this is our first piece of tech, which is that you can actually animation cancel all reloads in the game. This isn't just for the Melta, this is any reload. So look at my Melta, whatever clip I'm playing, notice how mine has 7 in the mag. When I'm reloading it, the moment I see 7, I do a quick weapon swap and I swap back to my Melta and I can instantly shoot again. And you can animation cancel with any action. So if you're surrounded by enemies, you could start your reload and then cancel it with a melee swipe. So as soon as you see your mag reloaded, as soon as you see the number, just swipe your melee weapon and you're good to go. There's also a perk which gives us immunity from knockback while reloading, and this could help while you're swarmed. Now for melee, I am using the fencing Chainsword, and I'm actually using the balanced knife. Now more on those two later when I cover the combos for each of these melee weapons, but here are the perk loadouts for all 3 of these weapons in the background as I continue to blabber on right before we get into the next section, which is going to be the perk choices I take. So the Vanguard is one of the best classes for parrying elites, and that is due to this skill right here, Duelist, which gives us a 50% larger perfect parry window. This is great for parrying with upper hand. After a perfectly timed parry or dodge, you don't lose control upon taking heavy hits. Now this skill is very, very good for the combat knife. However, when I use the Chainsword, I tend to pick melee mastery. Keep in mind, both these melee weapons are good. I'm starting to think the knife is a little bit better, maybe because I've just been playing the Chainsword a lot and it's kind of nice to switch it up. But I would say that melee mastery is better with the Chainsword since I have stagger combos that I kind of get enemies into. And then with the knife, I kind of just go crazy with the light attacks. And after getting a parry off, you can just keep spamming them. Now, this skill right here, Honed Reactions, is another great skill for getting gun strikes off, or if you're low health, just getting that perfect dodge window, because gun strikes can help you get some contested health back. In the team skills, Inner Fire's gotta be the best one. I mean, we do have 15% melee damage right here, but at least on this build, this skill feels mandatory. And keep in mind that this counts for any finishers, even the little guys. You could shoot the little guys a couple times with a pistol, get them red, and finish them off and get 15% back, and your teammates will love you if you have this as well. And speaking of getting finishers, you are going to be greeting executions on the elites because you are grappling to them and killing them yourself. And there is a good reason for that, which is the capstones perk we are using, but let's just quickly go over the gear. Now, Shockwave deals a damage in a 5-meter radius, and this staggers the whole group that you jump into. Now, I don't know if it also debuffs the enemies with Tip of the Spear. Enemies hit by Diving Kick take 15% more range damage for 10 seconds. This is plus 15% damage to a Melta Blast that you smack them with. And then finally, I'm using when Grapnel Launcher is on cooldown, weapon damage is increased by 10%. This is just a way to brute force damage. If you come across an Extremis or the boss at one of the end of the levels, just spam your grappling hook and then you get 10% more damage all of a sudden. And combined with this skill, it's very potent in taking down Extremis enemies. Now, finally, for your signature perk, I am using Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills of Majoris or higher enemies restore health by 1%, and this also counts for the executions. Now, everyone is calling this perk bad because they read it and they didn't try it. Now, I'm not sure if it is bugged, but when you execute elites, you get about 1/8 of your health bar back. Now, if it is bugged, I hope instead of fixing it, the devs just change the text and make it work this way and let us keep this. Because this skill is really strong and it feels really good, and I think if it was only 1%, it would feel pretty bad. Now, in the background footage, I'm going to show you an example where I was downed this game and I had the death mark. I forget what it's called. If you go down again, you die. You know what I mean? So basically what I do when I get picked up, when I get rezzed by my team, I run around killing elites, and then I use the one stim pack simply to heal those death marks off of me. And the thing is, in general, as long as I don't, that's the only thing I use stims for. Otherwise, I completely rely on the healing from either this perk or contested health. It's just a really good thing combining the two of those to be able to get all that health back, and we have plenty of ways to get armor, just dodging and gun striking enemies and whatnot. Now, the other thing with the skill, Tactical Prowess, the one that lets you get your grapnel back if you get a finisher with it, is I feel like it's a non-bow because you actually have to grapple into finishable enemies, which is a little bit weird with a very close range Melta and using our melee weapon as our primary. If some of the rifles felt better, then I would use this skill. I actually leveled up my the three burst assault rifle to use on enemies, and it still just feels really bad. So if they buff the rifles, I'll probably be making a build with this skill. And the middle skill, Emperor's Blessing, is the get out of jail free card. Now, that is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's more so something that helps you every once in a while. I feel like it's maybe good for exterminus enemies like the Ravagers or the Zorathropes, or it's good for bosses. But for a more consistent play style where I'm kind of full on health pretty much the whole game, and if I get low, I'm not really worried about it because I'm using my armor as a buffer. I'm using contested health to keep my health full enough that as soon as I start eliminating elite enemies, I can get topped off because it heals about 1/8 of your bar. So technically you only need to kill about 7 elite enemies to get to full, which is, they're not far and few between on the highest difficulty. All right, so now let's go over how to kill elites over and over again and the general playstyle, and I'll also talk about the Chainsword and the knife. The first thing is obviously practice your parrying and dodging timing so that you can get gun strikes and you can pull off some counterattacks. The main thing to look out for is the dual sword enemies and the whip enemies having double attacks. So you'll parry the first attack, but you won't get the gun strike yet. They will hit you again. So the Tyranids with the whip, the blue parryable first whip is always followed up by a second whip. So you always have to parry the whip enemies twice. And I noticed with the swordy enemies, the dual swords, they tend to strike you on the left when their right hand, but your left side when they're doing their dual attack. And if they swipe you with the right strike, then usually you only have to parry once. And sometimes they could do the jump backwards attack, and you have to watch out for that one as well. Extremist enemies such as Lictors or Ravagers always attack multiple times and fast. You kind of have to mash your parry button. This is timing I still have a little bit of problems with because it could just be very surprising since they go invisible. or just run at you very, very fast. And one thing I'll note about parrying is if there is many enemies attacking you at once, the parry button seems to not to want to work, mainly when there's a ton of those small enemies and you're trying to just kill them with one shot with your parry. However, this can definitely happen if a bunch of warriors are swinging at you, although when I'm fighting 3 to 5 elite sort of enemies, I usually have no problem parrying them all, as long as I am timing it properly. Basically, if you're coming across a bunch of small enemies, just spam light attacks, get your contested health back, or blast off a Melta shot. I have won tons of fights just out parrying multiple warriors and multiple whip dudes. I'm sure I've been playing tons of clips of those throughout this video so far. And you do get iframes during your parry. Sometimes you even need to parry and then parry another enemy and parry again, and then you can get the gun strike off. And always be spamming E, always be spamming for those finishers. Be greedy finishing elites because it heals you. And really, I can only just show you examples of this stuff and clips in the background, but you really just need to practice using a fencing chainsword with the extra 50% parry window. You definitely have the advantage in combat against these daunting enemies. We will talk about the balanced combat knife in a second, because that is the one that I think is potentially the strongest and that I like the most. So first up for the chainsword, you can always hit escape during any of your games to see your combos, but my go-to combo is the kick, which is a tap and then a hold. And then I like to follow this up with another hold, which is the pistol whip, but I think I'm doing the slice animation because I have the perk for it. So basically the combo I use is tap, hold, hold. And that perk for the chainsword, which lets you charge it, if you manage to land some of these within your combos, it will lower the time to kill on elites, but the animation speed of this is pretty slow, so only charge a little bit when you can afford the extra second or two. And I'll give you one tip on the ranged elites that snipe at you. Anytime you grapple them and start meleeing them, they will very, very quickly hit you with a parryable attack. So anytime you're grappling into the sniper enemies, just hit them once or twice and then get ready to parry. Now, one thing you may not know is that the dash attack actually counts as your first light attack in an attack combo. So you can go dash attack into hold for the kick and then another hold for the pistol whip. So this would be dash tap, hold, hold. And this same idea can be used for the shoulder bash as well, which is light attack, hold, or what you could do is a dash attack into a light attack into a hold, and then another hold. So basically you are light attacking, shoulder bashing, and then the pistol whip. And of course, anytime you can stomp into a giant swarm of the tiny Tyranids, that is always welcome. Now for the knife, I am actually choosing the balanced knife. I personally don't have any problem parrying with this over the fencing option. This is possibly due to our 50% perfect parry perk, or maybe I just have the timing down because I've been playing this game for a bunch of hours in a row because I'm kind of addicted to it right now. But if you look at the stats, the speed at which this knife swings compared to the fencing option is almost double, which means you can just absolutely mash light attacks and get back contested health. You can literally just mash. And that's why I think this is good with the perk where you can't get knocked back for 5 seconds after you parry, because you can actually kind of just fight enemies, getting your contested health back, mixing parries in with it. Now for the knife, you definitely want to make sure you take the perk with your switches your dash attack into a shoulder bash, because it's an excellent source of stagger. And there really is no need for any advanced combos with the knife, as the knife itself has an endless combo ability. You can kind of just mix in heavy attacks as you please. But honestly, I really can't stress enough how much I just like mashing light attacks with it, because it kind of just feels brainless and fun. Now, I would also never recommend a blocking knife, since you lose the ability to parry, even though it is the highest damage. But it's just the speed on this knife is insane. And same with the chainsword. The balanced chainsword does have the highest damage, but it also has the lowest speed. And I do think that speed, realistically, is a form of damage, because you're not reloading. So speed is kind of like fire rate. And if you have a gun that you didn't have to reload, then fire rate would technically be a source of damage. It's the same idea here. We'd kind of just swing our knife until we stop, so speed is a source of damage. Now, besides that, make sure your Vanguard is kitted out with the best drip possible that will give you the most confidence to take into your next battle against the heretics. I'll be putting out the trials for this class right now, just so anyone who hasn't completed them can. But be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy these breakdowns. I absolutely love melee combat that this class offers, and I will be streaming Space Marine 2 here on this YouTube channel. Remember that Twitch is cringe, so make sure to turn on notifications or join the Discord for when I go live, and I'll see you guys next time. Here's the rest of the trials. I'm out.
Stay dead, vermin. Tether unbound. Magazine out, magazine in. Into the fray. Finished and ready. Into the maw of death. Full hope and no grains. Tether unbound. Magazine out, magazine in.